Hello and welcome to your August 8th daily briefing. We have a lot to cover today. We have some updates on the negotiations for the next stimulus check and the next stimulus package, and then we're going to talk about the updated numbers in the July jobs report and how that may affect the next stimulus, and also how it relates to the investment markets as a whole. So let's jump right in. Today was supposed to be the day where everything came together. All the parties had goals to reach an agreement on the next stimulus bill today, so then something could be passed by next week, and we all could just step back and take a deep breath and realize that the last couple months are past and we now have a stimulus bill. We don't have to worry so much anymore, but the odds of this happening today aren't great. First and foremost, there isn't even agreement on the budget size. The House and the Democrats are looking at a stimulus bill of around $3.4 trillion, while Republicans are aiming at around $1 trillion, and that hasn't changed much. If we can't even get an agreement on how much we're going to spend in totality, then how in the world are we going to figure out how much funding should go to individual causes? We need to first know, hey, we're going to spend X amount of dollars before we can decide this needs to be portioned off into this cause and this cause. So we're pretty far from reaching agreement if we can't even figure out total budget size. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer do seem to be willing to budge just slightly on their $3.4 trillion package size. Just this morning, it's been reported that they sent an offer to the White House to split the difference on their package funding. Meeting in the middle would lower the Democratic stimulus proposal from $3.4 trillion to around $2 to $2.4 trillion, still making it one of the largest spending bills in American history. But it is negotiations nevertheless, so I always have to appreciate some form of progress and willingness to give up just a little bit at least. However, the White House response to this offer was a direct, absolutely not. We're not going to spend that much. So here we are at a standstill again. However, Pelosi and Schumer are set to meet with the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin again later today, where they plan to make this split the difference offer again, and I guess cross their fingers for a different answer this time. This is what Pelosi had to say about it. She said, "I will again make the offer. We'll come down $1 trillion, you go up $1 trillion, and then we'll be within range of each other. But again, this is a very different set of values across the table." The biggest argument the White House has against this idea is the proposal doesn't cut any funding programs altogether. It simply shortens time windows of programs themselves in order to reduce the spending. So basically all the things they want to spend money on are still there. They just might not last quite as long. So like unemployment has a provision where it may last through next March. It could be a scenario where they're like, okay, we'll just go through the end of the year. Something like that, just for an example. And here's what Mark Meadows has to say about it, the White House Chief of Staff. He says, "I don't know that that's a reduction as much as she's changing time frames. So I don't think she's come off her number other than just making it shorter." So either way, there's going to have to be some huge compromises that need to start happening from both sides if we're trying to get anything done in a relatively reasonable time frame. We still don't know what's going to happen if no agreement is reached by today, because both the House and then after today, the Senate is supposed to be on recess for about a month each. And they're saying that they're going to be in session next week, or they might call people to session if a bill or agreement is reached. But if there's no agreement reached, they're probably just going to go on to recess. And does that mean the American people have to wait another month before real negotiations start? And then who knows what's going to be going on a month from now? I don't really want to wait and see what might happen if there's no agreement made today. What will be interesting to see is what the president decides to do if no deal gets reached today. Because for the last few days, President Trump has hinted at taking an executive order to address the key areas he is concerned about, including things like enhanced unemployment, rent moratoriums, and potentially a payroll tax cut. The payroll tax cut is especially interesting because he seems to be one of the only people in favor for that, but yet he brings it up when he talks about making an executive order. So we explored the legality of this the other day and determined it's seems legal for the president to make these changes by themselves with an executive order, but this doesn't exactly mean that it will actually happen. The president could make an order giving a payroll tax cut, but Congress could simply draft another bill nullifying the order before anything actually happens. Or if it's some kind of executive order that he makes that needs funding, Congress could just simply not approve the funding. So there still is that system of checks and balances, but it's an interesting concept nevertheless. It seems that the threat of executive action is a negotiation tactic in itself, just kind of being used to prompt more action in Congress. It doesn't seem like he really plans on using it. It seems like he's like, I'm going to use it if you guys don't get something done, but he knows they're going to get something done. Is kind of how I feel about it when I hear him talking about it. But I mean, who knows at this point? Pretty much everyone, including Schumer, Meadows, and Mnuchin, agree that an executive order is not a good way to solve the issues we're facing. So again, it's going to be interesting what exactly President Trump decides to do on that end. Something else that might change up the tone of negotiations is the July jobs report that came out just this morning. With the increase in virus cases and more closures in the last month, we were all kind of unsure as to what to expect in regards to the job losses or what exactly might happen in July. There was a little bit of uncertainty there. There were even estimates that we could see increased unemployment from June to July. Well, thankfully, that was not the case. July was the third month in a row of improved employment numbers. 1.8 million jobs were added in July. However, this is a far smaller improvement when compared to the 4.8 million jobs that were added in June. But progress is progress. We got to be happy that we're slowly, even without another stimulus bill, slowly coming out of recovery. However, many economists believe that in order to continue this trend, we absolutely need another spending bill, more stimulus checks to the people, some kind of fix for unemployment. Nearly every economist is on board with that. It's actually really hard to find an opinion the other way that is for recent times anyways. I've done some searching, and really the only opinions against stimulus spending I can find are for previous recessions. So unemployment has fallen to 10.2%, which again, improvement is great, but we still have a long ways to go. There are 12.9 million jobs lost and not yet regained since the beginning of the pandemic. And 10.2% unemployment is still worse than the peak unemployment rate during the Great Recession. So we're still worse than the worst of the Great Recession. So it'll be interesting to see how and if these numbers are spun in stimulus negotiations. If you remember a few months back, the unemployment rate fell from around mid 16% to around 14%, and that was used as cause to wait and see about another stimulus package. So I'm a little concerned that a similar situation will happen, and this causes legislators to take their foot off the gas in stimulus negotiations when we still have a lot of recovery ahead of us. And again, most economists agree we need more spending to keep this positive trend. One area that surprisingly didn't overreact to the positive jobs report is the stock market. I checked out the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 while researching this video today, and was surprised to see there was very little change in price from yesterday. Actually, as of when I checked it, it was down just a hair from yesterday, and I was pretty surprised. I think investors and speculators may be realizing that despite a positive increase in jobs, even if some people expected it to be negative, we still have no idea what's to come with the rest of the year as some shutdowns continue. Most bars in most states are closed still. I know gyms in a lot of states are closed still, and virus cases are still rising. We don't have a vaccine. There's just a ton of uncertainty in the air. And some actually say that we're in a stock market bubble right now, which might actually be the case. If we take the S&P 500 and compare numbers now versus record highs before COVID, you'll see there's been a nearly complete turnaround. Take a look at this graph. Around 3,300 in February and 3,300 in August. That just doesn't seem quite right to me. And then let's compare this with consumer spending in the same time frame. Consumer spending has gone down 11.6% in that same time period. So people are spending 11.6% less. However, the companies that receive the spent money are at the same price. Something doesn't add up if you ask me. 11.6% isn't something I'd consider like a scary bubble territory. It just doesn't seem to be an accurate representation of the actual markets right now. This isn't to say that there aren't individual deals or funds that could be priced properly and could be a good deal for an investor. This is just largely the market as a whole, and that's where I think we see the largest sways in opinion and exaggerations with good news and bad news in the markets. If you are interested in the markets or stocks, check out the link in my description for Webull. You'll receive 2 completely free stocks once you sign up and deposit $100 into your account, and you'll help this channel out along the way. It's a great intro to understanding how the markets work, and the best part is you can do so without actually spending any of your own money. You can just take those 2 free stocks and call it good if you want to. Anyways, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.